Honestly, the last thing I fucking wanted is for two white men to show up on my For You page.
That's right.
Talking about how I need to believe in X, Y, and Z ideology. If you really want to do something, how about you go outside and organize your community? Stop doing a podcast and complaining every week.
Yeah, if every white guy that decided to start a leftist podcast right after they got leftist views went out and started organizing, we'd have a revolution already.
Yeah, media is unimportant.
Yeah.
Historically, every leftist group that has had to deal with a bunch of propaganda survived.
For real.
Dealing with right-wing propaganda, historically very easy. Didn't sink leftist efforts in Guatemala or anything like that.
Not at all. Not at all whatsoever. Messaging, not important.
Doesn't matter.
Not important.
Get out and organize your community. Doesn't matter how much anti-communist sentiment there is. Even if you're not really a communist, if you're not out there organizing your community and being off TikTok, then you are ontologically evil.
True.
And you know what that means.
No one has ever been radicalized on TikTok before. No one has ever learned new ideas from seeking out different content before. It's not about sinking your message into the teeth of people who don't usually see things. It's about just like talking to people in your community, which, I mean, to an extent it is, obviously. If you couldn't guess, we're talking about some criticism that we received on TikTok earlier this week where some dude commented, again, if these white guys would have just started organizing, we'd have the revolution already. It's like, yeah, dog, I get it. Organizing, very important. I can't stress that enough. That is very important. Podcasting, yeah, it's not the most important thing in the world, but obviously messaging is important. You need messaging. And if the somewhat unpopular leftist sentiment that all these podcasts, they aren't really doing anything. Hassan, the big like streamers, they aren't really doing anything for the movement. They're just sitting here like filling their own egos. They're not getting anyone on the left. It's just a fucking lie.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't say that about like Steven Crowder. We don't say that about Tucker Carlson on his show every night. And we don't say that about Ben Shapiro on YouTube. We actually invented a new term to describe what they've done. We invented the alt-right pipeline, described the alt-right pipeline as this thing that led people to these content creators, which then radicalized them into conservatism and alt-right views.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's like no one on the right gets criticized for talking up capitalism, talking about how great it is, how great the Republican Party is, and then gets criticized for like not owning enough capital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dog, if I figure out the way to if I figure out how to do the revolution and install a communist America,
I'd be doing it.
I would have done it already. If I would have figured out how to get to utopia, I would have done it already. But I guarantee you the path there is going to include some form of communication and messaging. And if I can play a part in radicalizing people in a way that I like, in a way that can maybe one day evolve into some type of career, then why wouldn't I do it?
True. But I don't know, dog. Steven Crowder, he's not doing a lot for the right.
Yeah, right.
Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson, they're really not doing that much for the right.
Right.
They would have had their conservative capitalist revolution already if it wasn't for them.
Whenever you walk into like your grandparents' house, your uncle's house or whatever, and you see them watching Fox News and their brain just being melted, Tucker Carlson's not actually doing that much.
Yeah, for real.
They're definitely going to still have nuanced take. Like if Tucker Carlson was in their neighborhood organizing, things would be different for them.
Real.
Then the brain rot would set in. But until then, they're going to be able to critically analyze these situations regardless.
In all seriousness, both things can exist, people, and both things are important.
Diversity
need organizing, and you need information spreading.
Diversity of tactics is good. And if you have this take, you should probably become a patron. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back to Head in the Office. We're talking about a whole lot of fascism and right-wing insanity today.
That's right.
You can probably predict we're going international a little bit later on in the show.
Got to
start off with a little discussion of Hurricane Ian and Florida being underwater. And then we got some Beyond Parody for the end of the show. We have
to talk about a little bit of Lizzo twerk.
Exactly. We get a little bit of Lizzo twerking. But anyway, before we get into the show, as I just mentioned, you gotta become a patron. If you want to get the shows early and you want to get access to all of our exclusive content down the road, it's time to become a patron.
True.
Patreon.com/headintheofficepod. You could also buy some merch promo if you're listening to this on Wednesday, which most people will be, except our patrons.
That's right.
Then the deal for the merch is over. 15% off is gone, but you can still get some merch at headintheoffice.com. And maybe there'll be some future promos.
True. Maybe we'll throw some out around the holiday season.
Yeah.
The coming holiday season.
Yeah, a little bit of hit-o for the holiday season. Get your right-wing uncle a Head in the Office shirt. He won't understand it, but you can get it for him anyway.
However, if you're a broke leftist like the rest of us, you could always support the show by giving out a 5-star review, of which we have none today.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts.
It's kind of nuts. It's been 2 weeks since we've had 5-star reviews. Last week you read one. That's because we missed it the week before.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, so we were just talking about Praxis in the cold open.
Yeah.
This is not very Praxis of all of you.
Oh my, I know.
Because I know we have more listeners than we have reviews. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, all I'm going to say, we've got about 1,200, 1,300 listeners. I'm not seeing that many reviews.
Exactly. We got maybe a tenth of that in reviews. So get on it, or you're a bad leftist. You're hurting the movement.
But while you're at it, don't forget to hit up twitter.com/headintheoffice, Instagram.com/headintheoffice, and TikTok.com/headintheoffice.
And throw a comment, throw a subscription our way. On YouTube, we could really use it.
Help us get to 1,000 subscriptions.
Exactly,
so
we're 400
pennies,
subs away.
So you can make a couple pennies off of each recording we post.
It's we're building up. We're building up our business. We are entrepreneurs.
Real.
That's all that
We've
matters.
survived longer than 90% of entrepreneurs.
That's true.
90% of big small businesses fail within a year.
Exactly. We're better than you.
Episode 65, we're over a stack in Minecraft.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Those are the metrics we really care about. Getting into the news coverage here, though, we got to talk about Florida.
True.
Florida's in shambles right now. So if many of you have already likely heard, Florida was hit by a Category 4 hurricane, Hurricane Ian, over the last week or so. By the time you're hearing this, if you're listening on Wednesday, it probably isn't going to be in the news as much. Even right now, I think the storm has passed over Florida.
I know they talked about it dying down a lot overnight.
Yeah, so things are looking better in terms of the weather. But as of writing this, 77 people have been reported dead because of the hurricane, and several thousands were missing or just assumed to be sheltering without power. People couldn't keep track of them. And the situation, of course, is developing and will likely change by the time the episode is released, so something to keep in mind. But Ian is one of the largest storms. I think is it a tropical storm? Tropical cyclone, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
One of the largest storms to hit Florida ever, and left some 400,000 without power and destroyed a lot of buildings. FEMA and others are sending disaster relief to Florida, and as of today, rescue and repair efforts are underway, which is a good thing. Obviously, the destruction has been terrible. You've probably seen the clips of the news reporter out in the middle of the street as sheet metal flies by him,
almost cutting him in half
because he's storm watching, trying to get the clout. But of course, the conservative line here has been, don't politicize this.
Yeah,
don't politicize this tragedy.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to Head in the Office and you've been a listener for a while, you know that all we care about is politicizing everything.
That's right, baby.
The optics, baby. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So Ron DeSantis, he's had several calls with Joe Biden himself. Joe Brandon.
Dark Brandon,
Antifa Brandon.
Yeah.
Communist Brandon. Destroying America, taking our freedoms away Brandon.
Real.
Ron DeSantis is working with him.
No.
Yeah.
No.
He's working with Joe Biden just a few weeks after his human trafficking stunt, even. So Ron DeSantis, he's had a couple of calls about relief to Florida, of course, asking Joe Biden to help with the power of the federal government and FEMA. Joe Biden agreed because, he's not a soulless creature like Ron DeSantis is. So Floridians in need are going to get help. But I thought it was notable when I was reading articles about this. I found out that I think, was it 2013?
In 2013, when he was a House representative for Florida.
When Hurricane Sandy hit New York,
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis voted against aid to go to New York for New Yorkers that needed it after Hurricane Sandy.
Even more recently, Thursday, Marco Rubio and what's the other guy, Rick Scott, voted no on a FEMA bill in the Senate.
Nice.
So that's fun.
Was that before the storm or
I
during?
think so. It was before the storm.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense.
Marco Rubio and Rick Scott voted no on FEMA funding. So that's dope. And I believe 16 other House Republicans for Florida also voted no on FEMA funding.
Sick.
It's a general trend for conservatives to vote no for FEMA funding when it's anywhere else except their home state that is actively undergoing a disaster, which, to be fair, they totally need it when they're undergoing a disaster. I just think that FEMA should always be funded.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like we could probably deal with these things a lot faster if we didn't wait until they were happening in order to dedicate funding.
If you didn't have to wait till after 77 people have died and thousands of people are missing and hundreds of thousands of people without power to not like beg the president for help, but have to go through negotiations to reappropriate things from the budget to get help when you could have just had that money set aside in the first place. Alternatively, if he would because in 2013, a notable thing I read in an independent article from when he first opposed Hurricane Sandy was he said that it would be fiscally that the people they need help. They certainly need help.
Right.
However, it would be fiscally irresponsible to divert all this funding to them at this time.
It'd be fiscally irresponsible to make it so you don't drown.
Yeah, if he wants to talk about fiscal responsibility, I think the first fucking thing he should do is reappropriate the $12 million he set aside to bus immigrants to Martha's Vineyard and Delaware and places like that to disaster relief.
No, yeah, exactly. And apparently Ron DeSantis, the week that Hurricane Ian hit, was planning to send a group of migrants from Texas to Delaware, where Biden usually spends his weekends, but obviously was stopped because of the storm. Yeah. If that's not divine intervention,
crazy,
then I don't know what is. Like, he was planning on doing another human trafficking stunt to get back at Biden, and instead he's asking Biden for relief funding that he needs, that he's previously been opposed to giving to other states. Crazy.
It's just like what's the libertarian? Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Rand Paul, when the hurricane hit Kentucky, Rand Paul was talking about relief, although historically he has always been vehemently opposed to funding FEMA in any capacity.
It is interesting, though, like, usually when natural disasters will, like, hit liberal communities more, conservatives are always going on about, like, oh, this is God's wrath. Like, you've made God angry.
That's right.
But then when it hits a Republican state, and I know that not all Floridians are Republican, but when it hits a state controlled by Republicans, suddenly none of that rhetoric exists anymore. It's not God's wrath punishing them. It's just a really sad thing that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting how the goalposts always move. But you'll obviously see a lot of people in regards to Hurricane Ian saying don't politicize it. But you can't talk about these issues like Hurricane Ian, like other natural disasters, without talking about politics, because these things are inherently political.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Ron DeSantis is a member of the party that refuses to do anything on climate change and refuses to change anything, which basically guarantees that more natural disasters are going to happen.
And they refuse to fund the organizations that are designed to help give relief when natural disasters hit.
Yeah.
But then when the natural disasters hit them and they need funding, they're like, oh, well, we need it, though.
Yeah.
We need it, though, so you have to give it to us, but we can't fund these things preemptively. That's a political decision.
Yeah.
He did that. He chose not to vote no on that FEMA funding. Him, Rick Scott, Rubio, all the other fucking demons in the Florida conservative legislature, they all voted no to gain political clout. The issue is inherently political.
Right. They're refusing to do things like invest in disaster relief. They refuse to do things like affect in actions that would curb the effects of climate change. And that guarantees that this kind of thing is going to happen again, and that their people are going to suffer, because Florida is a coastal state. Florida is always getting tropical storms, but he does nothing to invest in the safety of Florida until people are actively losing power and drowning. Yeah. Because that's what Ron DeSantis does. And that's what the Republican Party does. And the question is no longer going to be, when is it going to happen again? It's how bad will it be this time? And for every coastal city, state, country, etc., it's only going to get worse because we refuse to do anything about climate change, because Ron DeSantis and his party won't do anything about it.
It's like, as tropical storms are getting worse, as the damage from these storms continues to get worse year over year, just verifiably, they go on and they say, look, well, us using paper straws hasn't really done anything to stop things like this from happening.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's like, they're not interested in any of the solutions. And at this point, it's not even that conservatives are running obstruction. They're actively trying to harm people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we could have avoided this had conservatives ever been willing to listen to scientists on climate change, or had ever been willing to cut into corporate profits to invest in reforms that would have curbed the effects of climate change. And some Democrats are guilty of this as well.
Oh, yeah.
But at this point, it's mostly conservatives that are opposed to doing anything about climate change. And this is where we are. Of course, it's not just the United States that is going to be able to change how our planet is changing, right? It's going to require investment from other countries.
It's an international effort.
The least we could do is something, right? It's anything.
Yeah.
And it's Ron DeSantis and his goons that don't want to. So if you ever hear conservatives saying, don't politicize this issue, tell them to shut up, and it's their fault.
True. True. It's just like school shootings. Like, another awful topic that happens whenever a school shooting happens, it's, let's not politicize this issue. When it's like, not politicizing it makes it removes their culpability from any policy that they voted for that has downstream effects that lead to things like school shootings. It's like, we posted on our story on Instagram, they all voted down a mental health bill in schools.
Yeah.
After all publicly coming out earlier this year saying that we need a mental health bill, that's what I'll vote for in the wake of Uvalde instead of a gun reform bill.
Yeah.
Yet after everyone's kind of forgotten about Uvalde, they say, actually, this is not passing. We are not doing this.
Right, yeah, like Uvalde happens, and then they say that they want investment in mental health infrastructure, and then I guess it's been several months now, but Democrats propose a bill for mental health infrastructure within schools, and they oppose it, and I guarantee you they're just going to say, well, Democrats are packing unnecessary things into this bill.
Oh, yeah. If you read the text of the bill.
That's always their excuse. They never actually tell you what they're packing into the bill.
Yeah.
They never point to the language in the bill that somehow, I don't know, pork for the states that, Democrats rule over. They always just say they're packing stuff into the bill, therefore I can't vote for it.
Exactly.
It was almost every Republican in the House.
No,
How are you going to say you care about mental health and then do nothing about it?
They're actually investing too much money in this school mental health. You see, it would be fiscally irresponsible to go ahead with this decision.
Right. And it just shows you, like, they don't care about the solution. They only care about the problem because they think the problem will deliver them political power. They think saying things like, in terms of gun control, they think saying things like the government's trying to take your guns away is politically popular for them. They think that doing things like, showing up after a natural disaster happens because they kind of have to. Like, if you're a governor of a state, you don't have a choice. They think that's popular, but not dedicating funding to natural disaster relief programs is also popular for them.
Yeah.
It's all a game to them. They don't care about your life.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And they especially don't care about your life when Ron DeSantis is out here making Chris Kyle-esque comments about looters in the wake of Hurricane Ian.
Right.
I don't know if we have that in the show notes, but bro's going nuts, warning against looting.
Right, yeah, no, exactly. It's
because that's the issue.
Crazy.
That's the issue is further damage to already destroyed buildings.
Yeah.
Don't you go loot that building that got knocked off of its foundation.
There was also, I don't know if you saw this, but there was I think a couple of years ago, Ron DeSantis hired somebody for his cabinet.
Yeah.
And then they had to resign because they did blackface. And they were trying to impersonate people trying to flee from whatever hurricane hit New Orleans. I can't remember.
No,
they were like doing an impersonation of like black people like trying to find relief in New Orleans.
That's fucking wild.
Isn't that crazy?
That's fucking. It didn't a picture just recently come up of Ron DeSantis wearing like a KKK costume?
That was another one of his cabinets.
Okay, that was.
It wasn't Ron DeSantis, so you can't say he's racist.
You're right. He's not.
But now he's had two cabinet people that have been explicitly racist.
Two of the people that he handpicked.
Yeah, right. And like the argument that they're gonna offer is like, oh, it's Halloween costumes, which I think it was, but like you can't do blackface.
But like the Klan?
You can't dress up as a member of the KKK. What is the point
What's
of that?
The context for like showing up to a Halloween costume to make all your non-existent black friends uncomfortable?
Right.
Like, guys know it's just a joke, though.
Guys know it's funny, though. Like, the KKK is really funny. Someone's going to clip that out of context. Neon Tari's going to get to this clip.
Not Neon Tari.
Yeah.
No.
Anyways, I think we're moving on, and we're talking about Italy?
Geopolitics, baby.
We're talking about geopolitics. We got to reestablish our claim.
That's the wrong soundboard.
Damn.
Fuck, I meant. Let's go.
We're talking about Italy, and we're talking about fascism. And I played that sound because any of you that know anything about World War II history and the decades leading up to World War II, Italy and fascism, not a good combination.
Not a good combination. Right now we have war in Europe. Italy just elected a new fascist prime minister. Mm-hmm. Somebody better keep an eye on Germany.
Yeah, no,
that's all I'm gonna say.
We got to be careful here. And
keep an eye on Germany. Keep an eye on Japan.
But we're talking about a new form of fascism.
Ooh,
and that's a girl boss fascism.
That's right. We're talking about the new liberal it-pol fascism,
which is distinctly different because Mussolini was actually a communist. We'll get into it though. So Italy recently held elections, and the far right parties in their parliamentary system just won majorities, which means that they're going to have the most sway. Well, previously it meant they're going to have the most sway over who the PM will be, but they did just get to choose, I think, like a couple of days ago who the PM will be. Yep. And that's who we're going to be talking about right now. One of the far right parties, which I'm not going to pronounce in Italian because I don't know how, but it translates to Brothers of Italy, yep. Has named Giorgia Meloni as the leader. And she's poised to be the next PM. So she's going to be the prime minister of Italy, and she's not very great. A lot of people are saying that this is the furthest right Italian government since Mussolini. And conservatives are celebrating the United States.
Badge of honor.
But like it's right. Like they are the farthest right Italian government since Mussolini was in charge.
Which it's like, just to put it in perspective, it's kind of crazy that this is the farthest right government that they've had. She's horrible. As we'll get into, she's fucking horrible. But when you compare it to our right wing politicians, you're like, damn, that's kind of like the same.
Yeah.
If not like less.
Yeah, and it's like I was going to get into this a little bit later, but you think of the rise of fascism in the United States, and you think of people like Donald Trump, maybe people that come after him, maybe he just paved the way, whatever it is.
Like the Tea Party.
Eventually, we will get fascist, just straight up fascist candidates that probably won't call themselves fascist, but they will be, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll have straight up fascist candidates come up, and maybe they'll win power, maybe they'll become the president one day, and even if our government does turn fascist, that will be really, really bad for people domestically. But fascism, in its drive to expand, you got to think like, what would we expand into? Like, because if the goal is world domination, we got it.
We already are like the world hegemonic power.
Right.
We own everything.
Which makes me worry about countries in Europe growing more and more fascist because, like, they got a reason to want to expand.
Where do they expand? Poland?
Like, Italy's got historical reasons to be upset with other countries in the European Union. And I don't know what happens there. That's scary. That's what really scares me. Of course, the United States turning to fascism would be really, really bad.
Yeah.
We should prevent that at all costs. But Italian fascism, part 2, not good.
Historical precedents for that being awful.
Not good, not good. Anyway, let's talk about Giorgia Meloni.
Okay.
I want to get into what she believes in. Why is she a fascist? We haven't explained ourselves.
True.
We're just labeling her as a fascist because we don't like her.
What are the policy positions she supports?
Right. So in her youth, Meloni was associated with far-right groups with their roots in fascism. I don't remember the exact party name. I think it was like the National Social Movement or something like that, which was the direct offspring of the previous fascist party. Like
Wasn't there
exact spiritual successor?
Yeah.
So Meloni was a part of that group. She was also a part of, I think it was called Youth Front, was another fascist group she was a part of as a kid. So it was like she's been racist since birth.
There was a headline that I retweeted. I'm trying to find it. Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. It's great. It was something about how when Giorgia Meloni was only 14 years old, she went to the local fascist chapter party to join, and she was met with all boys, and watch how she changed it from within. It's
Girlboss fascism.
Girlboss fascism. It's crazy.
Fascism. Like we haven't even gotten into her political beliefs, but just her association with fascist groups goes back so far that like you don't even really need to explain it anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like she's been a nerd for this stuff since she was a child.
She loves fascism.
And just because she's a woman, people are like, oh my God, girlboss fascism. She's a girl boss. The left should be happy that this is happening. Don't they want women in power?
Yeah.
Even if they're fascist, don't they want women in power? Anyways. In the early 2000s, Meloni had a fire take on Benito Mussolini.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, Benito Mussolini, a dictator during World War II, allied with Adolf Hitler during World War II.
Wonderful.
That should tell you all you need to know. But she said that Benito Mussolini was a good politician. He did a lot of good things for Italy, and he was one of the best politicians they had in the last 50 years.
God,
damn. Or something like he was better than all the politicians in the last 50 years.
God,
which is a fucking crazy take. Like saying Benito Mussolini was good. I feel like we shouldn't have to explain this, but we will. Right. Yeah, for people that don't know.
Due diligence.
For people that say that Benito Mussolini is good is to also say that like Hitler was good for Germany. You know what I mean?
It's like, sure, right? I guess, kinda.
Like, Benito Mussolini, he did do a lot for like upgrading infrastructure in Italy. I think they had like a lot more expansion to their farms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he also indiscriminately killed political opposition, was bigoted against the Slavs, and allied with Adolf Hitler during World War II.
But it's also kind of like how like Hitler, in the midst of hyperinflation in Germany, he brought it down, gave him a strong economy. But I don't think I need to say what else Hitler did.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That made that all not really worth it.
Like Hitler and Mussolini together facilitated a Holocaust, dog. Like this is like saying, the Japanese Empire wasn't so bad. Like maybe they did really good for their economy. So what if they did biological tests on human subjects?
Yeah.
Who cares?
So what if that's the only reason we know how much water is in a human?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like this is the same take, like obviously presidents in the United States as of recent are not as bad as like Mussolini or Adolf Hitler or anything like that. But that's like saying like, oh yeah, like Barack Obama, really good for the economy. I don't really care if he murdered Syrians. Like drop bombs on hospitals and weddings. It's like, I feel like that's a deal breaker. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Just a little bit.
Also, I've seen some rhetoric that from conservatives saying that if she actually is Mussolini 2.0, then we should be happy because Mussolini was a socialist. Which is a really dumb line of argumentation because, like, as a young person, Benito Mussolini was associated with, like, socialist groups. But later on, as he grew up, he, 1, denounced socialism, and 2, was kicked out of socialist groups because he was fucking insane.
Crazy.
Because he was insane. And then he later on went to like denounce Marx's writings and said some shit like nationalism is more important than class boundaries, which if you know anything about socialism is completely in opposition to what socialists believe.
Yeah.
Like he thought nationalism was more important. He wanted to consolidate power into a state himself, and he wanted a super strong military.
It's kind of like
nothing that Marx would ever
the National Socialist German Workers' Party was not a socialist party. It was more the National German Party.
Yeah. It's almost like Nazis were not socialists. It's almost like the DPRK is, in fact, at least doesn't seem to be democratic. Like you can name yourself something and not actually be that thing. I know that might be too difficult for conservatives to comprehend, though. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving on to our next view. She's openly anti-abortion and anti-same-sex marriage. And if you don't know, in Italy, same-sex marriage is not a codified right, kind of similar to America.
Yeah.
You can only do like civil unions.
Yes.
But she is openly in favor of a constitutional amendment to ban gay couples from adopting kids.
And getting married.
So that's pretty sick, right? That's pretty sick.
Dope. She's also close friends with Viktor Orban.
Naturally.
So you can see where a lot of that has come from.
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
And also she's been supporting what she's calling like traditional family values, right? And we see that a lot in the United States.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
tradition.
Right. Let me tell you what a right-winger means when they say traditional family values. They mean that they want to eliminate the prevalence or existence of LGBTQ people. Because think about it. Like, what do right-wingers mean when they say traditional family values? Mm-hmm. They mean things like, separating kids from their families at the border? Or like crushing families with medical debt as they can't afford healthcare, or like burdening students with massive amounts of loans in the form of student debt just to get a college education so they can eventually start their own family. Republicans don't care about, or right-wingers in general, don't care about traditional family values, because if they did, they wouldn't allow any of that to happen.
And it's like funny because that's like the sarcastic reading, right? But then when you get into the actual traditional like family values of this country, you get what? Women can't have credit cards.
Right, exactly.
Women can't have credit cards. They can only stay home all fucking day. Women can't fucking work on their own. They can't make their own money. They have to stay trapped in loveless marriages. Right. Like that's the traditional family values. Domestic abuse was more okay back then.
It wasn't spoken about. Like traditional family values to them is eliminating anything outside of heteronormativity. Yeah. And subjecting women to basically being prisoners in their own homes. That's what traditional family values are. And if they actually cared about family values, they wouldn't allow children to go hungry in this country.
Conservative men want a real doll. They don't want a woman. They don't want like an actual like person that can talk to them and be an individual. They want a fucking real doll.
Yeah. No. So if you hear either this Mussolini 2.0 Girlboss fascist talking about family values, or any Republican in this country talking about family values, just know they're lying.
Republicans in this country, which he also has close ties to.
Yeah, of course.
Because we have close ties to Viktor Orban as well.
Viktor Orban really set up the connections here.
I can't wait to see the Tucker Carlson segment where he's like, they're calling this new prime minister far right, but is she really far right when she just wants traditional family values?
Exactly, yeah.
When that's all that she wants?
Like, that's the thing with the whole traditional family values thing is like everyone nowadays, usually on the right, but sometimes like liberals too, everyone speaks in fucking euphemisms.
Yeah.
Nobody, like
it's all dog whistles.
Right, back during like World War II and before that, like fascists were proudly racist. You know what I mean? But nowadays, right-wingers know, even though they believe similar things, they know that they can't say any of that. So they speak through euphemisms like multiculturalism or traditional family values, when what they mean is getting rid of people of color, establishing an ethno-state, and destroying the LGBTQ community.
It's like,
that's what they mean.
They know that they can't say the N-word, so they say crime statistics instead.
Yeah. And it's like there's evidence for this, because I think it was in the Ronald Reagan administration, there were people that would say like, oh, well, we can't straight up say the N-word anymore, so we have to talk more about poverty or lawlessness or crime or, drug use rates.
Depravity.
Right. Like
bad culture.
Right, like social disorder. That's what we have to talk about, because we can't say the N-word anymore. It's not acceptable anymore, but we still have to find a way to show our beliefs, to dog whistle to people. Otherwise, they're not going to know what we believe.
We'll lose the people in the middle if we straight up say the N-word.
Exactly. They're just fucking cowards now, so they have to speak through euphemisms like traditional family values, and what they mean is, I want to Holocaust gay people.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's only straight people.
Yeah.
And women can't have credit cards.
Speaking of multiculturalism, though, she's also violently against immigration.
Insanely opposed to immigration.
And against multiculturalism, so much so.
Are you talking about the tweet?
Trigger warning, yeah. So much so that she posted a video of someone being raped by an asylum seeker on Twitter a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Just posted it, and the victim, reached out and said, I don't want you to post this.
Yeah.
I've been identified from this video, and it's awful.
Uh-huh.
And she just refused to.
Yeah, because she's fucking crazy.
Insane.
That is the worst kind of shit poster. You shouldn't even be included in the category of shit poster. Like I'm a shit poster.
I feel like that should disqualify you from running for political office.
Yeah, or at least kick you off of Twitter. She's still on.
Like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Right-wingers talk about being banned all the time.
And Maloney said that she thinks that there is a planned migration to replace Italians.
Oh, a planned migration from Africa to
Right.
Italy to replace Italians.
Which
also, those Pakistanis and Palestinians and all of them.
I think this is hilarious because, like, other than it being blatantly evil and like white replacement theory, Nazi shit, like, of course.
Yeah.
Other than it being that, it's like, who's trying to replace Italians, dog?
No, for real.
No one
For real.
cares
Come on
about
now.
you guys anymore.
Come on now.
Like, who's trying to replace it? Like, most of you just like went to New Jersey? Like, no one, nobody. Who's doing a global plot to replace Italians? At least when Tucker Carlson talks about it, people like end up believing him because they're like, oh my god, white race is on the line.
Because
there's a whole narrative.
Tucker talks about like the white race as a whole, how vague and exclusionary that gets. It's more nuanced, but still, he talks about the white race.
Yeah.
She's talking about Italians.
Like,
the only person who heard that and thought, you know what, you're fucking right, is Charlie D'Amelio's dad. It's like, yeah, I'm a person of color. I'm Italian.
It's like, at least when Tucker Carlson does it, obviously he's being racist, awful, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
XYZ. He's being terrible, but at least he like gives a narrative and like
Real.
people buy it. No one gives a fuck about replacing Italians. Like, no one really cares about that kind of nationalism anymore.
Like, it's so fucking goofy. It's goofy how like white supremacy is goofy when you're looking at it as like a leftist, right? But it's like, we're removed from this, so we feel like it's so goofy.
Right.
Because it is.
Right, yeah, because she's talking about like the white Italians, right?
Yeah.
Like she's not talking about
Any
Italians
brown
of different
Italians.
like ethnic backgrounds. It's the white Italians.
Yeah.
Which is just like, so who's replacing? Who cares? Nobody cares enough to plan a global plot to kick out Italians from their homeland.
We need to humble the Italians again. It's with all the shit that happened with Le Pen in France as well, and how their current neoliberal prime minister is still just vehemently Islamophobic with their the fucking ban.
Yeah, the on the hijabs.
Yes,
and
the
burqas,
hijab
yeah.
ban. Like that, with all that shit, it's like we need to bring out Francophobia.
Oh yeah,
and Italiophobia.
Oh yeah,
honestly,
Britophobia too, with Liz Truss as prime minister.
Oh
She's
my
getting
god,
shit on right now, dog.
Britophobia.
Liz Truss, like a little diversion, you know, geopolitical
yeah.
podcast. Let's see, Liz Truss, new prime minister of the UK. She came in. The Queen fucking dies.
Respect for the Queen dying after meeting Liz Truss.
Exactly. Well, fair enough from our perspective, but to the global community, Liz Truss comes in, Queen dies immediately, an L for her, right? And then the UK economy takes a fucking nosedive. USD is about to be worth more than the UK pound.
Fuck yeah.
Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
American Revolution. You blew a 13 colony lead. Let's go.
True.
So bring back all of those phobias.
Speaking of British people, here's another awful British person who wrote an article. You want to know what the article's called? The title? Giorgia Meloni isn't far right. She just says what we all think. When I listen to the new Italian prime minister speak, I hear mainstream conservative values that millions of people share.
Mainstream conservative values, like not letting immigrants come into the country
Gay
and
people
not letting
cannot
gay people
get married.
Exactly.
So much so that I'm going to write it into the Constitution.
Wait. Mainstream conservative values, like Mussolini was good. Like dictators, fascist dictators were good.
Like I don't know how we let Italy like slip like this, because Germany, obviously they are just strictly like they did it right. You know, after World War II, they've atoned for their sins.
We kind of did it for them, but yeah.
We did it for them, but like we made them atone for their sins.
Yeah.
Now still, they are like, any mention of Hitler is like fucking illegal in a positive light in Germany. You are not allowed
no Nazi
to have
flags,
a swastika.
like that.
That's fucking illegal. Like, you'll go to jail for doing that. Maybe we should have had something happen like that in Italy.
Well, definitely we should have had the Allied forces come in and split up Italy in a similar way. And there were problems with how it was done in Germany, but I won't get into it. But also, it's similar to how we did nothing about the South after Reconstruction, quote unquote, finished. Of course, like, we never finished Reconstruction. We just kind of stopped doing it. And then the South was allowed to do their own thing. And that explains a lot of the problems we've had with the South. Like, we just didn't do anything about it. It's like when you have these parasitic ideologies prop up and gain power. If you don't snuff them out, they're going to continue to proliferate. And that's bad.
Very bad.
Anyway. When Meloni talks about things like multiculturalism, she just means she wants an ethno state. Like, that's what that is.
She just means any culture that isn't like Italian pizza.
I like the pizza.
Pete's in The Sopranos. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, can we send the Cuomos back to Italy? Like, fuck them.
Especially, was it Chris?
Andrew and Chris.
Especially Andrew.
Both of them. They can both get out of here. Send them back. We'll take all the good Italians.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Real. Yeah. I'll take some of the good ones.
We'll pull a Ron DeSantis. Maybe we are trying to replace Italians. We'll pull a Ron DeSantis and we'll fly Italians over here into Florida, actually.
Real?
To take over their voting population. And then we can have a commanding vote majority of Florida.
Yeah, Florida will be the last bastion of the white Italian, you know?
Yeah. Italian POC. Last take I have here from Maloney. She said that the celebration of Italy's liberation from Nazi fascism and the establishment of the Italian Republic, which are two holidays in Italy, she thinks those should be replaced.
Which are holidays that like celebrate how they got away from fascism,
Right.
how after World War II they supposedly did better.
Yeah, the Italy's liberation was when they killed Benito Mussolini, then hung him upside down and peed on him.
Yep.
And threw rocks and like tomatoes at him and shit.
Yeah.
Which was based.
Cool. Based and cool.
His corpse was upside down in one of their like town plazas or whatever for like a long time. Really cool. And then the establishment of the Italian Republic is just celebrated because like, you know, democracy. And like Italy's democracy hasn't been perfect and we'll get into it. But like good things, right? Good things to celebrate. She wants to replace that with National Unity and Armed Forces Day, which is a celebration of Italy's victory in World War I.
Military Day.
Yeah.
I want to replace this holiday celebrating how we got away from fascism with fucking Military Day.
Guys, she's not a fascist, though.
That's crazy. Come on. Like, I don't know how you can't see it. It's so fucking blatant. It's staring you in the face. She's a fucking nationalist. She's obsessed with the military, wants to have a military holiday to replace the good holiday.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
So you may be asking, if she's so crazy, if she's so insane, how did she win? And I wanna offer a little bit of our perspective, a little bit of a history lesson.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, give you some pointers to why this kind of thing keeps happening.
True.
The first thing that you could point to as a reason to why she won is there was super low turnout in this election. A lot of young people just weren't able to vote or weren't encouraged to vote or didn't want to vote because the candidates were so bad. There was a lot of voter suppression from what I heard, like young people, if they were like at college or like whatever their equivalent of college is, if they were away.
They're free college or whatever, you know.
If they were away at free college, they couldn't really make it back, and they couldn't make it back home to vote. There was no like absentee voting or anything like that.
Italy isn't so bad.
They couldn't make it back home to vote. So there's a lot of voter suppression going on. Another answer, though, is that the opposition party, which was just like center leftists, or like the center left, was pretty bad.
I'd imagine they were pretty fractured
Yeah.
as well, considering that there's, you know, multiple different parties that can actually have candidates happen. And she won in part because all of the far right and moderate right candidates actually got together so that they could win.
Yeah, it's partially that, and it's also that like a common theme in countries that are experiencing a rise in right-wing ideologies, right-wing psychos, is that the center-left candidates are really bad.
Yeah.
It's what happened in America in 2016, which is, I would submit that this is kind of their version of what happened in 2016. You know, we had someone like Hillary Clinton that excited absolutely nobody, that did really, really poorly, and we just kind of expected her to win because Trump was insane, and
that
she
reality
didn't win.
TV guy. Come on.
Right, she didn't win because elections are not inevitable and you have to compete for votes. So that's one take that you could consider. But also, like I said earlier, there's been conservatives that are like happy that she won, and there's been conservatives saying like you should be happy that a woman won in Italy.
There's been a lot of liberals happy that she won as well.
You had Hillary Clinton in some like press conference or something that she was in saying that she was happy that a woman won in Italy and that's a hallmark or a step away from previous systems that should be celebrated.
But it's not.
Which is crazy.
It's not.
Yeah.
Feminism is not simply supporting women no matter what. Feminism is not, this woman won an election. It's anti-feminist to think that women can do no wrong, and to think that any woman in power is good for women.
Right.
Because this woman in power is strictly bad for women. She's anti-abortion, anti so many good things, pro-traditional family values, which as we described have been historically awful for women, at least in America. Can't really speak on Italy. However, you know the dog whistle.
Right.
You know what I'm alluding to.
Right. And it's like it's funny that Hillary Clinton is the one to say this, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
she's like, you know, the queen of girl bosses, at least in the United
Cut a
States.
liberal if fascist bleeds. You know what I'm
Girlboss,
saying?
Gaslight, Gatekeep. You know how it goes. But it's like it's not a problem of the people in power needing to have a different identity. The problem is the ideology.
Oh, for
It doesn't
sure.
matter who you substitute in for someone like Benito Mussolini. Doesn't matter if it's a woman, a man, a black person, a white. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If they are fascist, they are going to to be bad regardless.
For everyone.
It's such
including women.
It's such a shallow understanding of political trends and political ideologies to just say like, oh yeah, it's good that a woman got elected.
It's like this shit we make fun of all the time. Like, oh my God, there are 7 women on the board of Raytheon.
Right.
Like, that's not very good for women in the Middle East, dog.
Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The problem is the political structures and the ideology itself. So girlboss fascism, not good.
Not good. And it's like, honestly, I blame it on liberal identity politics.
Oh, 100%.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it's so much of what we've seen, at least in America, is based off of right-wingers being able to successfully co-opt them.
Yeah.
One, identity politics mean nothing when you only care about the identity and you don't care about the intersectionality that comes with that identity.
Right.
You don't care about any forms of analysis associated with that identity. It's not just diversifying positions of power. It's diversifying positions of power. And we talked about this with the aerial code open so that you can actually represent those people, those diverse people, not just have them as bodies in those spaces because that functionally really just means nothing.
Right. And it's like, it's good to know that it can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's good to know that it's not impossible. People aren't barred from doing so. It's a possibility that people can engage in. But again, it doesn't matter if it doesn't come along with structural reform to ensure that it's an equal playing field for everybody. Again, it doesn't matter the individual that's in this position. It matters what they actually believe in.
Yeah.
Just making it a woman doesn't make fascism any more tolerable.
Especially when what they actually believe in is just marketed. Like in the Hillary Clinton tweet, for example, what she believes in is opposed to what you say that you believe is like a core right to women in abortion. You should be condemning that. You should not be celebrating it just because a woman won power. It's like how right-wingers, again, like to co-op identity politics by saying, oh, you say listen to black people, why don't you listen to Candace Owens? Why don't you listen to the Hodge twins? What about this person? You can't say they're wrong, they're black. What about Larry Elder?
Right, exactly.
He's a black guy and he's on our side too. Look, we're not racist.
Yeah, no, it's because that kind of uncritical support for anybody that is of a certain, I don't know, belief system or a certain identity group, uncritical support for that person is the exact reason why we have things like patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, et cetera, is because previously white men have just been uncritically understood to be the quote unquote superior leaders. Yeah. And that's just how all of, well, I guess not all of human history, but all certain of Western bits history of human has history, really been. Yeah. It's just uncritical acceptance of white men leading everything. And if we apply that to other, I don't know, ideological systems, other political systems, and yeah, we're gonna get fucking fascist women.
You're not any better.
It almost makes it more dangerous because then the liberal sees a woman in power and thinks, oh, well, then it can't be that bad, right? Like, I can't criticize them that much because at least it's a woman in power. Like, no, they're doing damage to women.
It is profoundly anti-feminist to think that this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Profoundly. It's fucking absurd.
Yeah. But there is another reason, a more historical reason that Giorgia Meloni might have come to power, and it has to do with, you may be surprised, the United States CIA. And I want to go through that a little bit. So following World War II, leftist and socialist parties in Italy were wildly popular, right? They were the ones that were leading the charge against fascism throughout the world, and they were the ones that were violently and ardently against Mussolini. So they were very popular following World War II, and they started to win elections off the heels of Mussolini being killed, which was 1943. So as soon as Mussolini died and then World War II ended later on, the leftist groups were very popular amongst the population for good reason, right? For really good reason. And this was true throughout a lot of Europe. In 1948, though...
A lot of the world in general, in fact.
In 1948, though, the leftist and socialist parties in Italy were poised to win commanding majorities of their legislature and poised to basically be able to take control of the government. And this scared the United States. Because the United States was in the process back then, it's hard to imagine a different world system, but the United States was in the process back then of becoming a major world superpower and setting up an international system of trade and capital exchange that would benefit them the most. Yeah. And they recognized that in Europe, if communism was to spread or just to gain power, even through legitimate means, that would spell a lot of trouble for the capitalist system that they're trying to set up, the world trade, free trade, open door policy system that they wanted to invent.
Whoa, I need my bananas.
Exactly. Shout out Guatemala last episode.
I need my bananas.
So the U.S. was really scared of a communist victory in Italy. So, you might be surprised, the CIA did a propaganda campaign. Where they were openly supporting the Christian Democrats, which was a right-wing party sympathetic to America, but also served as a little bit of a harbor for fascists that were left unscathed after World War II. So there were some fascists in the party that kind of flocked to the Christian Democrats, and there was also a lot of anti-communists within the Christian Democrat Party, which was basically everyone that wasn't on the left at that point.
Because at that time, it's like Russia won World War II. Russia's the reason we won World War II. Communism going crazy over there.
Right, exactly.
Going crazy over there.
Right, like communism, even if it wasn't... And I want to make it clear right now that in Italy, the communist parties were not being influenced by the USSR.
Yeah.
The USSR was in fucking shambles after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
They had been fighting really hard. They had a lot of critical infrastructure destroyed. A lot of people died from the Soviet Union. So they didn't really have a hand in this election, but the United States was convinced that if Italy somehow turned to communism, it would be the fault of the USSR, and it would lead to the
domino theory,
effect, right?
baby.
Like communism would take over all of Europe, and that's what they were.
And then eventually it'll get to Vietnam.
Exactly. And so the CIA launches their propaganda campaign a month before the election in 1948. And they did a bunch of things, including a massive letter writing campaign in Italy, warning of communist victory. It was mostly relatives from outside of Italy writing like, if your country, or if Italy, if the homeland turns to communism, then I'll never be able to visit you. You'll never be able to visit me. You won't be able to leave. You can't come to America.
Which, like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
That is so wild. Like, to think that they had family over here actually just write letters.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
They had celebrities like Frank Sinatra tell Italians that you can't vote for communism, it's bad. They had broadcasts daily pumping out misinformation about the election, about communism in general. Italian leftists were again accused of being in league with the USSR. No real evidence for this. The CIA directly gave money to the Christian Democrats and other center parties to run smear campaigns. So just direct election intervention. And the US was also at the time sending a lot of food and money to Italy because they just had a war, right? The country was functionally destroyed in a lot of areas. So the U.S. was sending a lot of assistance, and they said, if the communists win, you're not going to get this food anymore. So
I love threatening to starve people.
Yeah, direct election intervention, and the CIA campaign was successful. The Christian Democrats won 48% of the government, and the communists had a astounding loss that nobody expected.
It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But communism hasn't worked anywhere.
Right.
Where has socialism worked? Show me.
Exactly. They lost the election.
Come on, it's fair and square. They lost.
So, in summary, as soon as fascists were defeated in 1943, we backed another right-wing government. As soon as Benito Mussolini he might have still been hanging upside down in the street.
Yeah.
Still warm. And we backed another far-right group. That's nuts.
God damn, I love the CIA. Yeah. I need to tune into this week's episode of the CIA podcast, the Langley Files.
I'm sure they'll be talking about this since Italian elections just happening.
It's topical, right? They should hop on that.
But this isn't the only reason, and there's not a direct through line between what the CIA did and right-wing ideologies and, fascism with Maloney today in Italy. Because after Italy lost the war in World War II, fascism was hated, right? Like a lot of fascists, they were kicked out of the country, they were exiled, they were killed. The Italian population of the time obviously didn't like fascism because of what just happened. So for a long time, fascists were ostracized. That is what you should do when fascists are in your country. So there's something else that's also going on here. And I mentioned earlier Donald Trump and how he took power. And I would think that this is a similar phenomenon because Maloney was speaking when she was speaking, when figures like Donald Trump speak or Marine Le Pen, when they speak, they're speaking to very real frustrations that people are having, right?
Yeah.
They're speaking to economic isolation, economic frustration.
Real fears.
People's wages are stagnating. People feel like, corporations have infinite power over them, that their government is corrupt, that center left and center right haven't done anything for them. People like Maloney and Donald Trump and Marine Le Pen, et cetera, Viktor Orban, like they're speaking to people's real frustrations, but they're lying. Yeah. When they speak to them, they're saying, they're blaming, immigrants that are coming into the country. They're blaming women for raising weak men. Like, these are the kinds of things that they point to in scapegoat, but they're speaking to people's real frustrations, and people like Maloney can come to power because center Democrats or I guess not Democrats in her country, but center-left politicians are so fucking weak. And that's exactly what happened with Donald Trump.
And didn't she explicitly say something like, these immigrants are coming and they're going to be taking, like, your jobs from you?
Right. And it's the Donald Trump argument.
It's the same thing that we hear over here.
Yeah, like for the last several decades, leftists all over the world, especially since like the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s, leftists have lost all of their power.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no socialist. Like the furthest left candidate we have in the United States is Bernie Sanders, right? And he's a democratic socialist. He's not like, in terms of the political spectrum and, throughout history, he's not that far left.
He's less center left.
Exactly.
The Democrats.
He's just a little bit further left than the rest of the Democratic Party. But over the last few decades, leftists have really lost their power, and neoliberals have come to power. They've created that capitalist world system I was talking about before. They gutted social safety programs in favor of deregulation and allowing capital to move freely, which has resulted in corporations doing whatever they want, exploiting populations for however much they want, which again has led to a lot of economic frustration that fascists and authoritarians can only speak to because there aren't actual leftists doing it.
Yeah.
Because leftists have been silenced in this country and in other countries.
And then they create these problems like another policy she's in favor of. She's in favor of cutting taxes for the rich.
Yeah.
Cutting taxes, more austerity. It's like they create these problems to them complain about.
Right.
And then to use it as an excuse to get more power, to get more support. And then they use very real economic frustrations to then shoehorn in more social frustrations and fearmonger. Like with her reposting the video of someone being raped by an immigrant.
Right.
She's that's not like it's a real fear in the sense that you see that you're thinking, oh shit, but it's not something that's like likely to happen to everyone. You know what I mean?
And it's not the source of the problem, right?
Yeah.
The source of the problem is the massive amounts of deregulation and open door investment and free trade that the U.S. experiment has allowed to happen, which has given capital infinite power over just about everyone in the world, over just about every government, to the point where even your democratically elected governments can't do anything to regulate it anymore.
Yeah.
We used to have things called capital controls. They don't exist anymore. Right, they made it so capitalists couldn't just leave the country without giving us some amount of economic recompense.
Yeah,
but that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh yeah, and you see right wingers, you see people talking shit about policies like that all the time.
Exactly.
You see people say that it's unfair that if someone like if a business owner here moves overseas, they still have to pay U.S. taxes for being like U.S. citizen. That's no. Right. They came up in the U.S. They got all their wealth from the U.S. It's to stop people from taking the wealth and extracting it and bringing it somewhere else.
Exactly.
Just using us as bodies that can work for them.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, because of all of that, it has resulted in worsening economic conditions, depressed wages, lack of social safety nets, everything's more expensive, people are struggling more than ever. And without real left-wing pushback, far-right fascists and authoritarians are able to co-opt that leftist language and say, like, I'm the one fighting for you. You're angry at the swamp. You're angry at, the leftists in control, the communists in control. You're angry at the politicians that have left you behind. I can be the one to help you. They're lying. All of their solutions aren't real. They blame it on immigrants. They blame it on women, et cetera, et cetera. But they're able to do that because the left has been destroyed.
It's like no one would ever take a video of maybe Giorgia Meloni would. No one would take a video of a natural-born Italian sexually assaulting another Italian and posting it and being like, oh my God, look at this. This is crazy. You all have to worry about this. It's only because it's an immigrant that someone is posting things like that. They're manufacturing the fear there.
Yeah. And it's like this is not just a thing that's isolated to America or Italy. This is a worldwide phenomenon that we're seeing. It's because neoliberals have completely destroyed everyone's sense of, tangible security. Like people feel more alienated than ever, and it gives room for fascists like this to rise to power, and we can't do anything about it. Like Maloney kept saying things like they just want to turn us into consumers. That is a decidedly capitalist feature of the economy. Yeah, that is like consumerism.
That's a leftist talking point.
Consumerism is core to capitalism, and of course she isn't anti-capitalist, right? She wants to cut taxes for the rich, but what she is able to co-opt that leftist language and use it for herself because there's no one to give her pushback because neoliberals can't do it. They can't. Because as soon as if we're talking about America, as soon as Democrats start doing that, they lose donors. Yeah. And they can't win elections. And it's a similar thing in Italy as well. Like the rise of fascism is always masked in this thin veil of leftist populism. Mussolini did it. Hitler did it by naming his party the National Socialists. Donald Trump has done it. The Republican Party is trying to do it now. It's always this thin veil of leftist populism because it's popular. Yeah. Right? Like leftist ideas are popular, but as soon as they get into office, they abandon that, consolidate power around themselves, and forget about everything they promised. They're lying.
And like what we said a little bit ago, liberals can never actually get at the meat of anyone's real fears. Liberals can never get at the meat of what it means to have for your wages to not cover your rent. Right. What it means to have high gas prices. They can only kind of sidestep the issue and be like, actually, well, you understand in the free market, we have market forces, supply and demand. They'll come together, reach an equilibrium. The supply is really low. That's why your gas bill is making it so you can't feed your family this month. And you just kind of have to accept that. Sorry. Right. Whereas a right winger can come through and lie. And then someone like us can come through and actually give out real solutions.
Right, because like liberals don't have the tools necessary to actually get at the source of the problem, which is capitalism, right? Yeah. Which is the profit motive, which is the privatization of essential infrastructure and essential programs that people need. Liberals can't do that.
Yeah.
In fact, their whole ideology has been bought into neoliberalism, which is the opposite of ever doing anything about that problem.
Like, they're very pro-austerity.
Yeah.
They are very pro all of these things that right-wingers are also for that are making your life so shitty right now.
Right.
It's ridiculous. The only thing that's really separating the liberals, the neoliberals from the conservatives is just the identity politics.
Right, social issues,
And as we've talked about before a couple minutes ago, that's all so shallow that it really means nothing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's like, you know, when people like Maloney pop up, they will at times push back against neoliberalism, but they only do that because they see the economy as a tool that can deliver them power, right? We saw Donald Trump do this. There was a couple of times throughout his presidency, most notably, I think, when he was like, actually, let's give the people $2,000 stimulus checks.
Yeah.
He saw that because he thought that would deliver him political power. He's okay with pushing back against neoliberalism because he himself hasn't bought into it. He won the presidency off of pushing back against neoliberalism.
And all of the
They're comfortable
conservative
with that.
Congress people were also okay with that, except like Rand Paul, who is
And
really
Mitch McConnell, yeah.
who's really weirdly stuck in his ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were all okay with that until a new neoliberal president came through. When they flipped over, like, actually, we cannot support this no longer.
And this gives breathing room for people like Maloney to make arguments that leftists normally would, but leftists can't because we don't have any stake in the mainstream.
Yeah.
So it is the fault of neoliberal politicians that we're here to begin with. And of course, like, you know, we got to deal with the fascists when they pop up now. Like, we can't get too mad over the differences we have now because, like, we kind of got to band together to stop it and stuff. But it's like, damn, if only we could have had a different course of action. Because it's like the system just feeds into itself. And people don't really recognize that these demons that keep popping up in the Republican Party or far-right parties across the world, they are the result of an economy that doesn't work for anybody anymore. And we have the tool. Leftists genuinely have the tools without lying to do something about that, but we aren't given any power. We never are.
It's just so funny how this is just uniquely a problem. The way that fascists rise today is so uniquely created by the conditions with which neoliberals exist in.
Yeah.
It's the identity politics and it's the things that they believe. They are just so fucking awful.
They make it easy.
That they can never do that. They make it so easy for these fascists to rise. Fascists no longer need hyperinflation, making it so that a piece of bread costs $100,000 anymore, or 100,000 whatever it was in fucking Germany back in the early 1900s. They don't need that anymore. They just need a little bit of, oh my God, look at these Christians are being oppressed by this gay people that wants to buy cake from them.
They need a decade of the center right and center left doing nothing to deliver for actual people. And then they can come in and say things like, you know what, I'll raise your wages. Yeah. I'll make it so we're prioritizing you within this country. I'll make it so any trade deal that we take up is going to prioritize America so you can have your job back. And then, of course, they do things like blame immigrants. Yeah. Because there's no one to push back on that.
And then they continue to have all of their made in America, not made in America, Make America Great Again merch produced in China.
Yeah, exactly.
The irony is palpable.
It's all phony. None of it's real. No one's actually being genuine. And that's what makes people feel so left behind. And that's why Maloney gets to be in power now.
Ridiculous.
Gotta love the libs.
I love the libs.
Gotta
so
love
much.
the libs.
I love the libs.
Anyway, I think it's time for you know what time it is.
Time for a little bit of Beyond Parody.
A little bit of Lizzo twerk.
This today we're going to be talking about the decline of Western civilization. You know what I mean?
We already were a little bit, yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to get away from the school things that we've been talking about for Beyond Parody, although we'll probably come through at the end and talk a little bit about Doug Mastriano. But that's
my favorite politician. We're coming back domestically. You know, we were just geopolitical.
We were just geopolitical.
Now we're domestic.
We're zooming in, yet zooming out from the usual scope of Beyond Parody today to talk about the overall decline of Western civilization through the lens of thefederalist.com.
Oh, that's
favorite.
Right.
That's right.
That's my favorite website to visit.
I have an article to read
aside from headintheoffice.com.
Yeah, exactly. Aside from headintheoffice.com and, twitter.com/headintheoffice, Instagram.com/headintheoffice,
Patreon.com/headintheoffice,
YouTube.com/headintheoffice. This is probably my 7th or 8th favorite website to frequent, and I've got an article to read for you all today.
Okay.
This article is entitled "Lizzo Twerking with Madison's Flute is the antithesis of civilizational excellence."
I didn't even really pay attention to the Lizzo twerk.
I saw a couple tweets about it, but I just thought they were going nuts, which they are. They're not. Civilization's declining.
I kind of just assumed it's just racism.
Yeah, it's
that's kind of what I just
racism
assumed.
and a little bit of like beat into the Constitution.
Okay,
because apparently she
I
like twerked with James Madison's like crystal flute that they took from like the Library of Congress and let her like perform with, and she like and like shook it a little
Whose
bit.
flute was it?
James Madison.
He's fucking dead. Who
One
cares?
of the founding fathers. Excuse me.
The world is for the living, not for the dead.
The fourth president of the United States. Thank
Sorry,
you,
y'all. The world is the empire of the living, not of the dead.
That's
fuck them.
No, not me though. Not me. I'm in tune with this.
I strictly live in the past.
I'm in tune with this guy and his incredibly pretentious title.
Sick.
And as you'll see from this article, it is incredibly pretentious. Let me get into it. Our culture delights in the desecration of the sacred.
God damn.
The desecration is sometimes unthinkingly casual, but often deliberately profane.
Bro, starting off like Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer. You remember that? When she said, for all of human history, women have been blamed for the sins of the man or something like that.
Which is a bar, by the way. That's a bar.
Heat, absolutely heat.
It's like there was this Tiny Meat Gang segment where they interviewed this one guy, and they were doing it. That's cringe. Side note, and he comes on, and the first line he drops is, "For time immemorium, men have been fascinated with their own and each other's cocks." That's all. That's all I'll give you for that today. That's heat. It's a bar. It's a bar. But anyway, getting to the meat of the article, James Madison, the New World's great political mind, appeared coincident in history with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the old world's great artistic mind. Of the entire founding class, it is Madison, born 3 months after the declared start of music's high classical period, who lived most contemporaneously alongside mankind's greatest artistic achievements. Now, not entirely unreasonable then, that Madison would come to develop a taste for fine art and culture, a taste which developed, then flourished, not least by way of his enduring relationship with his political ally and predecessor in office, Thomas Jefferson.
Nice.
It's like a Marvel movie with all these Easter eggs, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying, There's so many recurring characters.
It's like, oh, holy shit, Thomas Jefferson's in this one.
Yo, we got to pull some kind of commentary out of it.
Got to. It's just so incredibly pretentious. Fitting, too, that the Madison household remains renowned for perhaps the greatest artistic rescue mission in American history. And then he talks about Dolly.
I can't wait to see how he loops this into Lizzo's bad because she's black.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
No, literally. He talks about Dolly Madison coordinating the urgent removal of White House's copy of Gilbert Stuart's some fucking dead white dude's name's portrait.
Smoking on whoever that is.
No, for real. Fuck that guy. And like George Washington's portrait when the British invaded and burned down the first White House, blah, 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 blah. Like so many ill-understood aspects of life in centuries past, the Madisonian Jeffersonian preference for elegance, restraint, balance, and formal structure, in a word, beauty, reflects not the petty indulgences of the haughty elite, but rather a patriotic aspiration to civilizational excellence. That's all the prelude.
Who is this for? Like, is it for us shitposters?
I don't know, dog.
Like,
that's what I'm like. Who reads this?
Not conservatives. They don't care.
Like article heads.
Yeah.
Read this. Like the federal people who beat to the Constitution. I was gonna get to it at the end, but this is kink in public. Like he published his kink right here.
No, bro is definitely horny posting on Maine. That's exactly what this is.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Ew.
You know what I mean?
Ew. I'm not a king shamer, but he deserves to be in jail. Lock him up.
On God.
Lock him up.
Constitution, that's the one kink that I will eviscerate you
Lock
for.
him up.
Lock her up, baby.
Police, it's this man right here.
Lock her up.
Back the boys in blue.
And now that's all the prelude to the article. Now we get to the big, bold, civilizational excellence in decline. That ambition stands in stark juxtaposition to the crude morass into which our fourth president's antique crystal flute was thrust as a stage prop at Lizzo's Washington, D.C. show Tuesday night. And then he shows a video of Lizzo twerk.
Wait, how did he get there?
How did it get
to it? Like, how is it?
Somebody just let her perform with it.
That's sick.
That's what I'm saying. Pretty cool, I guess. I also don't give a shit about James Madison's flute.
She went through the established procedures to get an artifact that she wanted to use for some art that she was doing.
Funny performance, like
exactly.
whatever. And it's like with all this like talk about like the crystal flute, I'm pretty sure this guy's just obsessed with Madison's skin flute. But that's another topic for another day.
Good one.
What can I say? Domer, quick Domer, real quick, Quote, "It's like playing out of a wine glass, bitch, so be patient," end quote. She remonstrated, flippantly hauling the priceless antique onto the stage, clad in a leotard and clawing at the ancient keys with inch-long alien-esque nails. That's racist.
Oh, yeah.
That is just racist.
This
right
is
there.
racism.
Not only is the inch-long alien-esque nails racist, because inch-long, that's not even that long. That's not even that long. One. And then as she remonstrated, I don't even know what that word means, but it
feels racist, though.
It feels racist. That whole paragraph feels racist. And I just love how he talks, he's so hoity about it, about Lizzo twerk.
This guy cannot be allowed within like 100 miles of
any
of a
portrait
city.
of a founding father.
Well, definitely that. This dude cannot be allowed within 100 miles of any city that has more than like 35% of their population not white. You know what I mean?
Real.
Because like he would probably
that includes
terrorize
Italians,
them.
by the way.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
After we replace them.
Real. Honestly, with how stuck in the past this guy is, the non-white probably includes Italians, Irish, Polish. You know what I mean? You know what
definitely.
I mean? You know what I mean?
The swarthy types.
Exactly.
Crackers for real.
But of course, there was no music to it. Just a solitary farced out C number sign, which I don't know, maybe that's C sharp. I don't know, fucking flute notes. A trill from B, and of course, the accompanying twerking.
Oh, of course. The accompanying twerking. In the twerking, it seems, we always find the very antithesis of that aforementioned civilizational excellence. Jesus Christ.
Not just the act itself, which to be sure is a special variety of 21st century personal vulgarity, but in the collective response it provokes. How does this guy like hold a conversation? How do you think he talks to people?
I hope nobody is around him ever.
Never.
Like, it would be the best outcome that nobody's like allowed to be around this guy because he's a threat.
There's no way you're just whipping out remonstrated.
Yeah, for real.
Casual conversation.
The antithesis of the like, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Except us.
Real.
Because we gotta cover it.
And you all now, because content, you know what I mean? It's such a gas article. It is the twerk that seems to evince in any crowd a manifest succumbing to the worst angles of our natures. The brainless shrieks of approval, the demented adulation for an unveiled sexuality.
This is racism.
Not content with mere liberality, but further possessed of a flippant, aggressive, and unapologetically performative disposition.
Aggressive. She's a black woman.
She's a black woman.
Jesus Christ. Of course she says aggressive. Got to put that in there. The violent gene.
It's so fucking funny. Like, all the word, like, dog, you did not have to do all that. Nobody talks like this. You don't fucking talk like this. He's writing in a more convoluted way that, like, my philosophy textbook was writing in. Then he writes more complicated than, like, Kant and Husserl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can understand them more than this. Not a compliment. Not a compliment.
Bro is more confusing than Plato in Republic. Like,
literally.
come on, dog.
Fucking ridiculous.
And that shit's already a tough read.
For real. For real. And all the more to applaud, you see, because James Madison bore symbolic witness to the madness.
Symbolic witness. He's dead, bro.
Can she really do that in the presence of the founding fathers? They're dead.
I hope he sees this, dog.
They're
I hope he sees this. I hope he reads this article, bro. Keep chin up, King.
I hope when you go to hell one day that James Madison is looking up at you like, "Hey, yo, good shit, King."
Yeah. I hope he sees his brother. Keep your chin up.
Good shit, King. Can she really do that in the presence of the founding fathers? Of course she can. And the prepossessed audacity to exhibit that behavior, the banality, the crudity, the do what I wantedy, whilst in this hallowed presence is the whole point of the exercise. For this is the culture that delights in the desecration of the sacred, the desecration that is sometimes unthinkingly casual, but often deliberately profane. Lizzo may have been one or the other. It was hard to tell. But in either case, shame finds no home in the heart of the exponent. To be a celebrity, it seems, is to be one who must exploit their own fame in the ironic usurpation of the consecrated past. More like the antiquated past.
Well, yeah, what is he talking about?
I don't know. Like, it's so pretentious.
Bro's just going on. Like, it's been the conservative narrative for, like, I don't know, all of American history to say, like, oh, these people are destroying what it means to be an American. They are destroying American values. They are degenerate. They're taking us back. Like, it's always been that.
Yeah.
Like, back when women wanted to vote. Like that's what the argument was. Back when women didn't want to wear clothing from their head to their toes to cover
my God, what if she goes and votes while she's on her period, huh?
Yeah, they were being like immodest, right? Like that's always how it's been. It's like if you are not directly subjected to my domination, then you are somehow undoing societal norms that hold this country together, because conservatives can only define themselves. Conservatives can only understand their self-identity in terms of what makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And what makes them feel comfortable is things not changing. They're just afraid.
You're ruining, dare I say, traditional family values.
And it's like Lizzo twerking with the fucking flu isn't changing anything. She's an artist doing art. Who cares?
Oh, yeah, no. And like artists do this shit all the time. They take like objects that are, they have some great symbolic thing and do something like profane with them.
Yeah.
However profane, like twerking with a flute is very tame compared to things that other white artists have done before.
And like I would do that shit too. Like if I got a page of the Gutenberg Bible, I'd light that shit on fire.
You
and
could
post
give me
a
the
picture.
Constitution, I'd get up there and twerk.
I'd burn it.
Booty naked.
Like, are you kidding? That would be the hardest album cover of all time.
For hardest podcast thumbnail of all time.
Like,
I get up there and twerk with the Constitution. That's just ridiculous. It's funny.
She's creating content and it's working. That's all I'm saying.
Real. A friend asked me, Lisa, I doubt this.
Yeah.
A friend asked me last night.
Yeah, shut the article. It's unbelievable.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I'm not immersed anymore.
I wonder what would have happened if she smashed that priceless founding era antique on stage. Would the audience have cared? No. I would not have cared. Honestly, I would have thought it was funnier.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been way funnier. Well, some would have. But the answer in respect of the aggregate is a firm no.
Ooh.
It's a firm no.
Firm no.
Because a crowd that would recognize the tragedy of such a loss is a crowd that would never have tolerated the irreverence of the spectacle in the first place. And that is a much larger problem than whatever Lizzo spat into the microphone Tuesday night.
Nice.
We must rediscover reverence. So the work must start with the crowd. It must start with finding amongst the masses, first, a reverence for something, then building that into reverence for many things. Reverence for things like real art, real music, and real culture. Reverence for the fine things that serve as inoculations against the crude things.
Bring back manly men. That's what this is saying.
Exactly. Bring back manly men who listen to classical and wear powdered wigs.
They just want Ben Shapiro. They just want everyone to be Ben Shapiro.
Jazz music is a degradation of classical, and rock and roll is a degradation of jazz.
Of course.
Exactly. Reverence for civilizational excellence over civilizational depravity. Lizzo's real name is Melissa Vivian Jefferson. The flute she played was a gift to Madison from acclaimed 19th century Parisian manufacturer Claude Laurent. On the occasion of the fourth president's second inauguration, who knows this much about like some random artifact James Madison had? Anyway, its custodian is the Library of Congress, and of course her concert took place in the nation's capital. So Jefferson played Madison's flute from Adams Library in Washington City. There's an undeniable poetry to it. It was of the tragic variety. He thought that was a bar.
Yeah, he did.
He wrote that and thought that was gas. Banger, honestly. Our first four presidents would surely stand in horrified witness at how their almighty cultural ambitions today stand poisoned by the gaudy burlesque of modern celebrity. No, that's exactly what I was thinking. They would have had to been horrified by a lot of things before they got to being horrified at this performance. First, probably being that a black woman is performing on stage.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one thing they'd be confused about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Why is this person receiving applause?
The flute comes second, third, maybe even fourth.
Yeah.
The antidote to the poison lies in the rediscovery of cultural reverence, in the reconstruction of the sacred. Ben Crooker is an Australian conductor, scholar, and writer, currently serving as a Ramsey Center for Western Civilization scholar in Washington, D.C. That's the guy who wrote it.
Jesus Christ.
If you
fire him.
If you came to me and said that you were a scholar for Western civilization, come on, dog. That's a red flag right there.
Yeah, you're probably just a Nazi.
That's a bit of a red flag.
It's like I don't understand what possesses you to care this much about someone playing a flute on stage.
Yeah.
Like nobody, like it's just racism. Like it's got to just be racism.
Oh, for sure. Like I can get it. I can get it to an extent when people are like, oh yeah, you know what, this artifact has like historical significance. I don't really like that an artist is like being profane with it. But it's like, to like this though?
Yeah.
Like I get like in passing being like, I don't really like that. that's fine, whatever. But it's the tone of the article. It's the pretentiousness of the article. It's the fact that he got paid to write that.
Yeah.
That honestly just blows my mind.
Oh my God. What an awful guy.
What an awful person.
Yeah.
Like I would hate to be anyone related to him.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that everyone gets a restraining order after reading that if they ever have to suffer through it like we did. I hope everyone in his office, if he works with other people, stays far away from him. He should not be allowed to engage with society.
True.
Yeah. He needs to be re-educated.
Jefferson's flute, gifted by Madison in Washington City.
He's talking about how like we need to like reconstruct our values, like go back. He didn't even say like go back to the way things were, but just like revitalize. What he's implying is conservative values.
Yeah,
it's like conservative values like human trafficking people to other states. Conservative values like killing women when they're pregnant.
Moral depravity is when the Library of Congress allows Lizzo to use an artifact on stage in one of her performances in Washington, D.C., not human trafficking immigrants kind of against their will.
Yeah, exactly.
That's completely fine and okay. That's what Jefferson would have wanted.
It's not misinforming people, fleeing from regimes or political violence, trying to get into the country, and then forcibly relocating them to prove a political point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what our founders would have wanted.
We need real music, like classical music. Mm-hmm. You need to listen to piano pieces at the gym.
Dog, like, classical music's still being made, dog. Like, you can go listen to it.
Literally, incredibly popular. Incredibly popular. Mozart, lots of monthly listeners on Spotify.
Guaranteed.
I can tell you that.
Maybe one day we can compete.
For real.
Yeah, this dude's a loser.
A loser? Speaking of losers.
Oh, Steven Crowder
Let's talk about losers doing rape apologia with Steven Crowder. We'll roll the clip right here.
All right.
So what I'm about to say is not an apologist for the rapists, like that man at Walmart, clearly guilty of rape,
of course,
as she insinuated.
Yeah.
But understanding that rape is primarily a crime of, I don't know, you're going to say it's a crime of power. Okay, get it, whatever. It's primarily a crime of wanting to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with you, and so you have sex with them anyway. Wouldn't it stand to reason that the victims of rape would usually, not always, generally be those who are most desirable sexually, considering the crime?
Maybe like the 5s to 10s.
I mean, like you don't carjack a 98 Oldsmobile.
No.
And it's always ladies like that who are claiming they're raped. I've searched, and I could be wrong about this, there are many, right? How many times have I been to a Change My Mind? It's always a blue-haired, would-be lesbian feminist who claim they're raped. As far as I know, not one Victoria's Secret model has been raped.
And they have wings.
Not one.
What are the odds?
Maybe they were going to be Victoria's Secret model, and then...
That's exactly it.
And then the blue hair.
Until someone lightly brushed their arm at Walmart.
Yeah.
And they gained 300 pounds because of it?
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
It's just, I'm just saying, it's always a rape that's completely unverifiable.
Right. Yeah.
And it's always used, for example, to justify cutting in line.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you're just playing the odds game, you would think that, like, if rape is horrible, but if I'm a rapist, and again, I'm not a rapist, I'm anti-rape, but if you've crossed that threshold, you say, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to be a felon, I'm going to inflict violence upon a woman, I'm going to have sex with a woman who doesn't want to have sex with me back, so now the barrier to entry is removed, the woman doesn't want to have sex with you back. Wouldn't you pick the one you most want to have sex with?
That is possibly the most dog shit take I've ever heard Steven Crowder make.
And that,
like, not only is that a bad take,
high bar.
There's a high bar. Not only is that a bad take, but it is actively harmful and destructive.
Literally,
that's crazy.
It's crazy to say that that's a high bar, considering like Steven Crowder, like the bar's in hell. The bar's in the ninth. The bar is further than Dante reached.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And to have to qualify at the beginning, like, I'm not trying to justify rape, like, to have to do that.
If you ever have to say, I'm not for rape, but maybe you should shut the fuck up.
Oh my God,
like, maybe you should just stop speaking right there. That's not something that should hit the airwaves, you know? It's ridiculous. And it's like, when he said, you don't carjack a 98 something mobile, that's just a fucking lie.
Yeah, it happens.
Like, that's just a fucking lie. If you go and Google what the most stolen cars are, you'll find that it's a Toyota Camry, a Honda Civic, and pickup trucks made by Chevy or Ford.
Oh, thank God.
The four most stolen
Honda
cars,
CRVs,
right?
go.
So one, that's just a bold-faced lie in of itself. But that's not even the worst part of that statement alone. Two, you're comparing a carjacking to a sexual assault. Nuts.
Not the same kind of crime, dog.
Takes a lot to get there.
It's like
two, you're comparing a woman to a car. Come on.
Yeah, like in your analogy, you are inherently objectifying a woman in the same way that a car is an object. Like you have, like I know that he has to know that carjacking and sexual violence are different in kind. They just aren't comparable. There is no comparison to be made.
And it's like he just so conveniently brushed off the fact, the psychological, undisputed fact that rape is a crime of power. No one goes out there and sexually assaults another person just because they didn't want to have sex with them. It's not just about the sexual gratification that they receive from doing the act. It's about having power over someone. It's about inflicting your will on someone because you feel entitled that they didn't give you their body.
Right.
That's what sexual assault is about. It's not just simply, oh my God, she's really cute, so I think I'm going to go do this because I'm depraved.
Right. No, yeah, it's like, it's so fucking stupid to say like, oh, well then, wouldn't you think that all the victims of rape would be Victoria's Secret models? It's like, there are some. He
said no Victoria's Secret models have been raped. One, just a lie.
Lie.
You can fucking Google it, and it comes up with many that have been. And also that presupposes, like, do they have to come out and tell you that they've been, do they have to tell you, Steven Crowder, that they've been sexually assaulted for you to stop harassing women who have been sexually assaulted?
And it's like, there's this caricature that he always makes up in his mind for just about every social issue there is, where it's like, they're only saying that this happened to them so that they can get sympathy or cut in line, is what he said.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just a fucking farce.
Because the context...
Do you know, like, I'm sure all of our listeners know, but like, do you know how difficult it is to share an experience that you have been sexually assaulted?
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the most difficult things, which is why the Me Too movement had to exist to begin with. I swear to fucking God, people like Steven Crowder are doing this kind of shit right now so that Matt Gaetz can stay out of the national limelight. Like, they have to run defense for it. It's like they compulsively run defense for people doing sexual crimes.
Side note, Matt Gaetz, also another politician that voted against FEMA funding.
And he's in Florida.
He's from Florida, another politician that did that. So that's funny. But like back to this egregious take. The context for this little rant is, I don't know if you all have seen it, but I'm sure some of you have. There was a video that went viral last week where some girl like cut somebody in line at Walmart, right? And then she had like a mental health, she had a breakdown. And she went like a little crazy in the middle of Walmart and was like, don't touch me, like I've been raped before, and did all that. Like she was having a mental breakdown, and some dude recorded it and was like, oh my God, look at this crazy person. And one, like, we'll tangentially related, these videos only like go viral because people like to just have a spectacle of someone's mental health breakdown.
It's a bloodthirsty thing, yeah.
And then right-wingers take it and they use videos like that to justify them making fun of sexual assault survivors.
Yeah.
Like that's it. When a right winger is laughing at their video, they're laughing because they're like, "Oh my God, look at this woman who I think is ugly that said that she got raped to try to cut in line. Can you believe that, honey? Honey, that's ridiculous, isn't it?"
Exactly.
While they're in their loveless marriage.
Yeah, no, it's fucking. Again, it's like they just have an instinct that they have to defend sexual violence.
Yeah.
Like people that do sexual.
Yeah.
And I think there was this some polls that came out, I don't know however long ago, but it was something like it was asking voters based on their party how likely they are to vote for someone if, X scandal came out about them. And it had things, like money laundering, other crimes like financial theft, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then there was one for if it came out that they did sexual assault, would you still vote for them? And conservatives were more likely than liberals to vote for a candidate within their party that was accused of sexual assault, even if they knew that to be true, which is wild.
Insane.
How does that not immediately disqualify someone for a position of power?
Knew that to be true. Knew that to be true. Another banger from Steven Crowder when he said, "Oh, I would believe him if it was verifiable." What does a verifiable sexual assault look like, Steven?
Exactly.
Does it have to be on video and presented to you for you to believe that any woman has ever been sexually assaulted?
Right.
Let alone a woman that you personally don't find attractive?
Right.
It's insane.
Crazy.
And he only brings up the Victoria's Secret thing, which is already just wrong and a fucking lie, to invalidate the experiences of, again, women that he doesn't find attractive, the blue-haired lesbian SJWs that claim that they've been raped before. It's only to invalidate that. But then to say that the quote-unquote hot ones, the 5s through 10s, still aren't getting raped, is to say that rape just doesn't happen, which is a verifiable lie.
Yeah.
What is it? Like 97% of women have had, not an explicit, like, violent rape, which is the only thing that Steven thinks is rape happened to them, but some sort of sexual assault or harassment happened to them.
Right.
It's an insane amount of women. Most of the women that I personally know and I'm close with have had something happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, it's fucking insane.
And
how do you get here?
It's like this also happens as conservatives are always fear-mongering about like more crime and more rapes happening like in cities.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's people like Greg Abbott talking about how like, rape statistics are so high right now because Democrats won't do anything about crime. And then they're like, well, if someone does a rape, if someone says they were a victim of sexual assault, then they're probably lying to cut in line.
They're probably lying to cut in line. Or if someone's a victim of sexual assault, that's like low-key like a compliment, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my
'Cause, like,
fucking God.
you're like mad pretty.
Jesus Christ. Steven Crowder is like a special type of evil.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ever since he got punched at that labor union
Something must have got knocked around in his brain.
Something got rewired after he got rocked by that, I don't know, whoever was protesting.
The union dude just fucking rocked him. But no, I just thought that take was absolutely egregious and
Crazy.
had to share it all with you. It's
no.
wrong on literally just every single level.
Oh, yeah.
Everything he said about that is wrong in there.
Uh-huh.
Even the points he was trying to be right. Oh my goodness. Gotta love Steven Crowder.
Steven Crowder, literally an enemy of the public.
Facts.
Is he still on YouTube? He's on YouTube, isn't he?
He got back on YouTube.
All right, he's back on YouTube.
He was banned for like a
maybe he'll
week.
see us talking trash about him and he can respond.
I hope so.
Steven, come on the show.
Steven, why don't you come on the show real quick?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So now that we're over with the Steven thing, I do have to get back to talking about schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's a passion of mine now, honestly. Every
Yeah,
week
school
on
watch.
Beyond Parody.
We're on school watch.
We're on school watch. We're like the local neighborhood watch, going around and auditing, doing a free speech audit on all of your local public K through 12 schools' social studies classes, making sure that they're not talking about critical race theory.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And then if the teachers are talking about critical race theory, we're going to come in and we're going to harass them until they quit, especially if they're a library worker.
Well, they're teaching white kids to hate themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And Doug Mastriano, GOP gubernatorial candidate for Pennsylvania, real banger of a state with their GOP candidates. This guy and Dr. Oz, they're
Great
like
candidates.
they're like the last bastion of conservative ideologies. Fuck Home Depot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wet ass P word.
That's a callback. That's a callback 2 months ago.
Like 2 years ago, I think.
Was it 2 years?
I think it was 2 years
That
ago.
was like right during the pandemic when businesses are closing. Ben Shapiro bought a slice of wood. Just one and put it in. For motherfuckers that talk so much about how masculinity is fading in America, they sure aren't doing any favors for
Oh
it.
my God, I know. What's Ben gonna do with that piece of wood, huh? Fucking throw it away?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Make someone else build his next studio? Yeah.
Doug Mastriano pled. He went on. He had a little rally, trying to garner support, where he talked about all the things that he was gonna stop day one in schools, in elementary schools.
Nice.
Once he gets elected as governor.
One.
You want to hear?
I want to hear the list.
You want to hear some of the items off this list?
Okay.
Top priority. Ban all the pole dancing that happens in elementary schools.
Yeah, Midwest elementary school's famous for
That's right, baby. We're going to ban all the pole dancing that happens in elementary schools. 2, CRT. Again, in elementary schools. That's one just like a classic.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as punchy as pole dancing,
No,
but it's a classic.
He's doing the old hits. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It works. It's what gets the numbers.
Greatest
pumping.
hits, yeah.
And then the next one, though, all the pornographic material.
Oh, yeah.
In the elementary school libraries.
So the book's teaching kids how to heal through sexual trauma. Yeah,
That's
just like
right.
we talked about.
That's
last
right. In
week,
the elementary school libraries. You know what I mean? all just to say that the teachers are grooming children. I love Doug.
Is that what he said? Teachers are grooming children.
Teachers are grooming children. We need to stop woke. Go woke, go broke.
Yeah.
Shout out Doug Mastriano.
I mean, I know at this point, a lot of conservatives aren't going to be convinced that like teachers are not, in fact, grooming your children.
Yeah.
But to those that are still on the fence, I would just say, given all the evidence, seeing that like it's not happening at all, you should be suspicious of people that want to make future generations dumber and less able to understand current and historical trends. You should be suspicious of people trying to take down teachers, education professionals who have gone to college for this, and replace them, maybe this is the real great replacement theory, replace them with police officers and veterans that have no certification in teaching whatsoever.
He's also notable for saying that if he was in power back during the 2020 election, he would not have certified Joe Biden's win. That's a fun one from Doug. Dougie boy. I call him Doug. We're close.
Oh, yeah, you and Doug.
Me and Doug. We're real close. Endorsed by President. He's the president. Donald Trump himself.
Current one, yeah.
He's leading behind the shadows. You know what I mean? Joe Biden, he's a puppet.
Yeah, no, Doug Mastriano is ardent election 2020 denier. He's definitely, if he wins, going to try to overturn the 2024 election. Maybe be successful. Let's hope not.
Yeah.
But he is a special kind of crazy. He's crazy.
And the last thing that he said he was going to ban day one in elementary schools. Guess. Come on, guess for me. Based on everything else we've heard, what do you think it could be?
I don't know, wearing like shorts.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking gay.
Exactly. What the hell?
Yeah, that's pretty fucking gay.
Exactly.
No. He's gonna ban pronoun games.
Wait, what do you mean pronoun?
I don't know. He didn't elaborate on any of it. He didn't show any evidence of like pole dancing happening in elementary schools because it doesn't.
It doesn't happen.
He named no pornographic books in elementary schools except, I don't know, maybe like an anatomy book.
Right.
Is he going to get rid of all the anatomy textbooks that may be floating around in your local elementary school curriculum?
Elementary kids are learning about anatomy
They love
so much.
human gross anatomy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then pronoun games.
Is that like
pronoun games.
icebreaker games that include like stating your pronouns?
I guess, but like, does that fucking happen in elementary school? And if it does,
I don't know.
what's
I'm
wrong
thinking,
with that?
I'm thinking of like, in college, the professor would be like, go around, say your name,
major pronouns.
and pronouns.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's
then
the thing
half
that
the kids
happens.
don't even say their pronouns.
Right.
And nobody makes a fucking fuss. That, that's the big thing. It's like, I guess another fucking tangent. Conservatives love to talk about all these college professors going around making you say your pronouns and giving you so much grief if you don't. Half the people in my fucking class, I was one of the only people in my biology class that actually said, yeah, Gage, biochem, he, him.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody fucking cared. Nobody batted an eye that most of the class didn't fucking do their pronouns. Nobody gave a shit. It's whatever.
Yeah, no, it's like nobody really cares about it. It's just to make it a more inclusive environment. Yeah. And the only reason they're rallying against it is because their voter base hates trans people. Like, that's all it is. And it's not even like pronouns specifically aren't even like a trans people thing.
Oh yeah.
It's a human language.
Like, some people are androgynous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have more androgynous traits, but they're still cis. Like, they would still like want to know.
We use like she and her when we're describing like cars and boats. You know what I mean? Like we project a gender onto these objects because it's language. It doesn't matter.
Motherfuckers name their cars.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It has nothing to do with like fucking. It doesn't even have anything to do really with trans people. It's just like, this is how humans speak. We use pronouns to describe things.
And it's even like everybody uses they to refer to people in casual conversation.
Yeah.
It's not grammatically incorrect. Like you do it all the time. You use singular they all the fucking time.
Also,
you only don't like it when you're talking to a they them.
Also, like, even if it was grammatically incorrect, we invented grammar.
We can change it. We can change the rules.
We can change it to be more inclusive of some people.
Guys,
and in fact, you use it when you don't know the gender of someone. So who cares?
Hear me out. People have not been dropping words like remonstrated for all of human history. You know what I mean?
He made it up.
Language evolves over time.
Yeah.
The rules change over time. And old English sounds way different than current English.
Yeah.
You think motherfuckers were talking like this back in 15th century BC?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
No.
Gotta love my boy Dougie.
Love Doug Mastriano.
Exactly.
I hope he wins. I hope him and Dr. Oz win.
That's darkest timeline.
And then maybe they can have crudité.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. Oz will probably get clapped, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think John Fetterman's going crazy. People were making fun. I can't remember who. Maybe it was Dennis Prager. Some like right-wing person was confused about how John Fetterman has a Johnny Cash tattoo. It's like, you can't do that. That's country, without understanding any of the meanings in Johnny Cash's songs.
Yeah, cool. Because it's like, for conservatives, it's all shapes and colors. Like it's all shapes and I guess we can include sounds too.
Sometimes
Shapes, colors, and like musical sounds, but they don't really understand any of it, and they can't put any of it together.
Not at all.
Like the depth of their understanding is like, oh well, he's wearing red, so
it's like how they don't understand that The Boys is making fun of them.
yeah, exactly.
It's like how some people didn't get that Blue Hawk was a play on police brutality. Yeah. And some people fucking defended Blue Hawk in The Boys. Oh my god, I saw a tweet earlier. It was some guy tweeted, actually, I don't understand how everyone is saying Todd. You remember Todd from season 3?
Yeah.
I don't understand how they're saying Todd, the
Spoiler
Homelander fanboy, is a conservative.
Yeah.
He looks like a liberal.
It's shapes and colors.
They said he has the physiognomy of a
nice.
bro did the little
We're doing
phrenology
phrenology.
skull
Yeah,
shape
we're
thing. He's
doing-
the physiognomy of a liberal. It's like, come on, dog. Have you seen Matt Walsh?
Exactly. Have you seen any conservative?
None of these conservative men look like the conservative men that they beat to. Come on.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Ridiculous.
No, that's crazy. It's like The Boys is entirely a commentary on like what happens when consumerism eats people alive. You know what I mean? Like, because like that's what it is, right?
Yeah, and also a commentary on identity politics.
Yeah.
Crazy. Base show. Great show.
Great show. Gotta love that.
Great
one.
show. I love that. It's a good one.
Shout out to
Can't
The
wait for
Boys
season
creators. Feel
4.
free to come on the show.
Yeah, for real. Anthony Starr, come on the show.
Yeah, feel free to come on the show, share your experience. We can do an exclusive.
Yeah,
It's whatever, it doesn't matter.
really wouldn't be anything. We'd love to boost your ratings a little bit.
Speaking of elections, though, maybe we might have to do some crazy like live stream election watch.
I'm so down.
on election day. That'd be fun.
Election day's on like a Tuesday.
It is a
though,
Tuesday. It is a Tuesday. We'll figure it out.
I got labs on Wednesday.
We'll
I have a
figure it out.
5-hour lab on Wednesday.
That's tough.
It's awful. I hate it so much.
Dude out here struggling, and you got to pay for it.
and I gotta pay
college.
for it. It's ridiculous.
I
Oh,
need that
my
Joe
God.
Biden student loan debt to kick in. Anyways,
Oh, for real. Speaking of the Joe Biden student loan debt, kind of small update for it. He came out with an update saying that certain people aren't eligible now. If you have federal loans insured through a private lender, like I guess you could get federal loans through like Sallie Mae or something.
okay.
In conjunction with your regular loans, those now aren't covered, and they dropped this news. I maybe should have put a segment on this.
Oh well.
And they dropped this news on September 29th, while also saying that if you didn't reconsolidate your federal loans to your private lender into a separate federal loan by September 29th, you're not eligible.
Nice.
So
It's like today's the cutoff.
yeah,
Sorry,
that's
guys.
fun. And then I think he also tweeted something and officially came out to say that it would cost $400 billion, and conservatives are like mouthing over that. But I'm like, yeah, it's dope.
$400 billion, drop in the bucket. Who even? It's half our military budget. I think we can
Exactly.
afford it.
Exactly.
Also, like, I mean, I kind of expected private loans to not really be included.
I
anyways.
expected that too,
So-
but I didn't know in the first place that you could get federal loans insured through like private lenders. But it's
Here we
all
are learning a
very
new thing
complicated.
every single day.
Honestly, life is a journey. Truly,
Yeah, and I'm riding it.
living. I'm surviving, not living.
As I'm here.
I'm certainly here.
Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you all for staying this long. If you're here right now, you're a hero of democracy. But before we go, we got to give a special thanks.
Got to.
So, special thanks to Cricket Scrapbook Layouts, Nikki Nine Lives, Kid and Kraut, Lord T, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Talia Katz, 40% Spite, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, The B Plot, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Ash Fairblood, Mark Yeager, Sarah McRoberts, Derek Messina, Dylan B, The Mind Sculptors, Kaz, Caleb Joy, Jim Bobs, Carl D, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vasquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Muberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Megan Latau, Jeff Muzzy, Ted Cruz's Boy Toy, Bagel Burrito, and my mom. Thank you all for supporting the show on Patreon.
Let's go.
We love you guys. Thank you for being here throughout our journey.
Exactly, for being here, supporting us financially, helping me be here every week.
As we defend traditional family values on this show.
Exactly, as we're here week in, week out, defending family values, defending feminism.
Oh, yeah.
Because come on, guys, you're really going to be mad that a woman's in power?
Girlboss.
Check
honestly.
your privilege.
Yeah. No.
Check your privilege.
Check your privilege, and once you do that, come back next week.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
At Wednesday at noon.
Exactly.
Sunday at around like 6 o'clock.
If you're a patron.
If you're a patron, you know what I'm saying.
We'll see you then.
Have a good one.